Good morning. Welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunny Hill. We're delighted that you could join us for this service today. Our mission at Sunny Hill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Krista Stanley, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunny Hill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. Also, if you'd like to be greeted as a newcomer after the service today, please take a red mug and members will seek you out to make sure that you are warmly welcomed. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. For all of those who are here in person today, just a gentle reminder, please silence your cell phones or other electronic devices so we can enjoy the service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. Just a note, Mary Pratt is out today, and we do have some lovely volunteers from the choir who will be supporting and leading our hymns today, so thank you all so very much. Today's service is titled Poems for Principles. This service, led by longtime Sunny Hill member Dean Hazelton, explores and celebrates the principles of Unitarian Universalism, including the eighth principle recently affirmed by Sunny Hill through poetry. As many of you know, the principles which were originally adopted by the UUA in 1985 are in the process of being revised and may be transformed into a new statement, UU Values. But even if this change takes place, and it probably will, the principles will still be an important part of our faith tradition. Today's service celebrates the principles and the values that they represent. Our opening words this morning are the UU principles. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountability, dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Please join me in saying the words for lighting our chalice. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home.
Mary, please get better. So, today, we're going to start out with a round. Why be easy, right? But you all know this, so sing out. We're going to sing it through twice together. Then this will be group number 1, which I will lead. We're number 1. This will be group number 2, which Shelley and Kelly will lead. And this will be group number 3, which Dawn and Rachel will lead. Okay? So everybody sing out. Sing out, Randy. And everybody stand if you're willing and able. Oh, yeah.
Wherever you are, Our story this morning is, of course, a poem, and it's a poem that expresses our third principle, that we promote the acceptance of one another and encouragement of spiritual growth in our congregations. This is a story for all of us, so we encourage the kids to stay with your families. It's a prose poem called Gate A4 by the Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye. Jean Ferland will read it.
Gate A4 by Naomi Shihab Nye. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight had been delayed for 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing loudly. "Help," said the flight service person. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke to her haltingly. "Shudawa, Shubidik, Shanishwe, Shibit Siwi." The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there, just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son, and I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and would ride next to her, Southwest. She called to him. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found, of course, they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took about 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling about her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered, sugary, crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, out of her bag. She was offering them to the women at the gate. To my amazement, not one single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free beverages from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving us all apple juice, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag. Some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person at that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. And with that, I am going to pass on to Jen a basket of mamoul cookies that I ordered. They're from Saudi Arabia. You can get anything from Amazon. powdered sugar are for the kids to take home. And now, whatever kids are here, we will sing them out.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
Today's service is a revised version of one presented by the Sunny Hill Poetry Group in 2014. I'm sure you all remember that well. When the worship team originally asked if the group would do a service of poems expressing our UU principles, I immediately answered, yes, yes, of course. To me, poetry is the language which best communicates what is deepest and most important in life. Our principles guide us in how to live, so it's a natural fit. In the 9 years since we did that service, many things have changed. As Krista mentioned, Sunny Hill and many other UU congregations have adopted an 8th principle, and so we've added another poem, or in this case it's a hymn, to our service. And second, the UUA has embarked on a major revision of our principles. What convinced me that this revision is needed is what's missing from the principles. If you take a long look as the principles go by on the screen, you'll see that the word love appears nowhere. The UUA has been wrestling with a revision which would replace the principles with a statement of UU values, with love as at its center. To me, this better expresses our heritage, in particular our universalist heritage, which starts with the premise that God is love. And it also, I think, expresses better our current practice and attitudes. For example, standing on the side of love. As you know, we have just begun our own discussion of this statement of values, so there'll be more to come on that as time goes on. However this wrestling match turns out, the UU principles will continue to play an important part in my religious life and my ethical life, because I think they state themes of profound ethical and religious meaning. There are hundreds of poems which express the deep truths which our principles state. Now, you may think that some of our choices than our choices be right. If you have questions, we or you could do it, or 2 or 3. The poem for our first principle, that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, is The Divine Image by William Blake. He wrote this poem around 1789. While some of Blake's language is not fully inclusive, his intent and his meaning clearly is. The Divine Image. To mercy, pity, peace, and love, all pray in their distress. And to these virtues of delight, all return us. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God, our Father dear. And mercy, pity, peace, and love is man, his child. And love, the human form divine. Peace, the human dress. Then every man in every clime that prays in his distress, prays to the human form divine. Love, pity, peace, and pity dwell. Their God is that says created human mercy, pity, peace, and love. Our inherent worth and dignity grow from such virtues, and they are human virtues, so that everyone who prays, as Blake says, prays to the human form divine. And since this human form is something we all share, so all must love the human form in heathen, Turk, or Jew. This is also a strong plea, obviously, for tolerance and acceptance, spoken like a you. The poem for our second principle, affirming justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, is Alabanza, in Praise of Local 100 by Martín Espada, an American poet of Puerto Rican descent. Alabanza means praise in Spanish. Alabanza, in Praise of Local 100 by Martín Espada, for the 43 members of hotel employees and restaurant employees, Local 100, working at the Windows on the World restaurant, who lost their lives in the attack on the World Trade Center. Alabanza, praise the cook with a shaven head and a tattoo on his shoulder that said, Oye, a blue-eyed Puerto Rican with people from Fajardo, the harbor of pirates centuries ago. Praise the lighthouse in Fajardo, candle glimmering white to worship the dark saint of the sea. Alabanza, praise the cook's yellow pirate's cap, worn in the name of Roberto Clemente, his plane that flamed into the ocean, loaded with cans for Nicaragua, for all the mouths chewing the ash of earthquakes. Alabanza, praise the kitchen radio, dial clicked even before the dial on the oven, so that music and Spanish rose before bread. Praise the bread, Alabanza. Praise Manhattan from 107 flights up, like Atlantis glimpsed through the windows of an ancient aquarium. Praise the great windows where immigrants from the kitchen could squint and almost see their world. Hear the chant of nations, Ecuador, Mexico, República Dominicana, Haiti, Yemen, Ghana, Bangladesh. Alabanza, praise the kitchen in the morning where the gas burned blue on every stove and exhaust fans fired their diminutive propellers. Hands cracked eggs with quick thumbs or sliced open cartons to build an altar of cans. Alabanza, praise the busboy's music, the chime of his dishes and silverware in the tub. Alabanza, praise the dish dog, the dishwasher who worked that morning because another dishwasher could not stop coughing, or because he needed overtime to pile the sacks of rice and beans for a family floating away on some Caribbean island plagued by frogs. Alabanza, praise the waitress who heard the radio in the kitchen and sang to herself about a man gone. Alabanza. After the thunder, louder, wilder than thunder, after the shudder deep in the glass of the great windows, after the radio stopped singing like a tree full of terrified frogs, after night burst the dam of day and flooded the kitchen, for a time the stoves glowed in darkness like the lighthouse in Fajardo. Like a cook's soul, I say, even if the dead cannot tell us about the bristles of God's beard, because God has no face. Soul, I say, to name the smoke beings flung in constellations across the night sky of this city and cities to come. Alabanza, I say, even if God has no face. Alabanza. When the war came from Manhattan and Kabul, two constellations of smoke rose and drifted to each other, mingling in icy air. And one said with an Afghan tongue, teach me to dance. We have no music here. And the other said, with a Spanish tongue, I will teach you. Music is all we have. This is such a powerful poem. Espada reminds us that not all the victims of the 9/11 attacks were wealthy stockbrokers or financial executives. Restaurant workers and immigrants also suffered the injustice of this attack. They too were people of intrinsic worth and leading lives of dignity. They too deserve our compassion. They do indeed deserve our praise. Alapanza. So that was the second poem for the second principle. We're going to step out of sequence again now and turn to our eighth principle, that of journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. And the reason for taking it out of sequence is that it clearly shares a lot with the second principle, affirming justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. When I was thinking about something for this principle, I thought of a poem by the great African-American poet, James Weldon Johnson. His brother, John Rosamond Johnson, composed music for it, giving the world the mighty anthem, "Lift Every Voice and Sing," which is also often referred to as the Black National Anthem. The song was first performed by students at a segregated school in Jacksonville, Florida, where James Weldon Johnson was the principal. And it was adopted by the NAACP and prominently used during the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. Our recently adopted eighth principle reminds us that it's not enough not to be racist, but that we must be actively anti-racist. In the spirit of reckoning with our past and present and working faithfully toward the beloved community, please rise in body or spirit and let us all sing, "Lift Every Voice and Sing."
Rini and Doug are going to play it first for us, and then we'll sing with them.
Good morning. My name is actually Joseph Barker, not Angela Klein. And I'm a member of the Sunny Hills Pastoral Care Team. Our mission is to reach out to members of our congregation who are going through challenging or significant life events, whatever they may be. We believe it's our personal connections with each other that offers kind of a loving presence, and that presence is what binds our Sunny Hill community together. The pastoral care team is here for you. If you'd like to know more, please seek me out after the service in the fellowship hall during coffee and conversation. Each week at this time, we share joys and sorrows submitted by the members of the Sunny Hill congregation. Joys and sorrows may be submitted online from our website, sunnyhill.org, or by filling out a paper form in the fellowship hall at the table on the right as you enter the fellowship hall. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond with me by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." We have a sorrow submitted by Janie Elliott. Janie Elliott's mother-in-law, Joan, died on August 4th. John and his brother Russ were with their mom when she passed. She was 95 and a half and had a long life filled with 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. For Janie and John, we hold you in our hearts. We have a joy submitted by Elizabeth Scanlon. Our granddaughter, Sophia, is expecting our first great-grandson in December. We are delighted. For the Scanlon family, we hold you in our hearts. A joy from Elizabeth Scanlon. The cardiologist was able to unlock an artery in Tom's heart last Monday. The doctor will be placing a stent in the artery in the next 10 to 14 days. We are grateful that they continue to monitor his health and detect new challenges and promptly fix them. For Tom and for Elizabeth, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Elizabeth Scanlon. Tom's sister, Betsy Barnes, has started hospice at Asbury Heights. She has dementia. Please keep Dawn, Tom, and her extended family in your thoughts as they start this journey not knowing what to expect. For Elizabeth, Tom, Betsy, and Betsy's family, we hold you in our hearts. We have a sorrow from Suzanne Fagan. Suzanne states, "My sorrow is an unexpected hospitalization." For Suzanne, we hold you in our hearts. We have a joy from Susan McCarthy this morning. "My joy is that our daughter Sarah and our grandson are here today visiting from Ohio. Sarah went through RE here back in the 90s. When we came into Sunny Hill today, Sarah remarked, 'It smells the same.' I read exactly what's on here. For Suzanne and Sarah and the grandson, we hold you in our hearts. As we sing or listen to our musical meditation, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and then return to your seats.
Here are 3 poems illustrating our 4th principle, that we promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The first is by the American poet William Stafford. It could be taken as a warning about the failure to conduct such a search. It's called A Ritual to Read to Each Other. Joe Shaughnessy will read it. And the second 2 are by Emily Dickinson, one of the best-loved voices in American poetry. She wrote them in the middle of the 19th century. Sue McCarthy will read those. So, is Joe here? There he is. Joe knows how to make an entrance.
A ritual to read to each other. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. and as elephants parade holding each elephant's tail. But if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep.
The Props Assist the House by Emily Dickinson. The props assist the house until the house is built, and then the props withdraw and adequate erect. The house supports itself and cease to recollect the augur and the carpenter, just such a retrospect. Hath the perfected life, a past of plank and nail and slowness. Then the scaffolds drop, affirming it a soul. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant, by Emily Dickinson. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind.
Stafford's image of following the wrong God home and missing our star, and his image of the circus elephants wandering around holding each other's tails and missing the circus park, I think are strong reminders of how important this principle is to we use. He's right. The darkness around us is indeed deep. I think that Emily Dickinson's two poems could be taken as guiding principles of religious education, both for our children and for ourselves as adults. The Props Assist the House describes the goal of RE, building a soul by careful, gradual process. And the second gives a broad outline to teachers of RE. I misunderstood this at first. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant? Should we engage in spin doctoring or distort our teachings? No. I think of beams of light coming from the sun. Sunbeams which may give a sunburn at noon will be warming, beautiful, and inspiring at sunrise. The sun is the same, and so are its beams. The difference is that at sunrise, the beams strike us at a greater slant. They dazzle gradually.
It's time for our morning offering. We don't have a designated offering this morning, so our collection will benefit Sunny Hill and help defray our operating expenses. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. And for those of you who are with us here in person today, we'll be passing around our offering baskets in just a moment. Thank you all for your generosity.
Thank you, Doug. The poem which expresses our fifth principle, that we will promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process, is Marge Percy's To Be of Use. Sue McCarthy will read it.
To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. The people I love the best dive into work head first, without dallying in the shallows. They swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals, bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like a water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward and do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals or field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fires be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for oil and water, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums. But we know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Well, you may ask yourselves, why pick a poem about work to illustrate our fifth principle? Because the democratic process is a lot of hard work. We don't have a hierarchy of denominational leaders at UUA headquarters in Boston to make our decisions for us. We have to hire our own minister, decide whether to build a larger building, approve our own budgets, sit on various committees to do this, that, and the other thing. And if you're not convinced by all the work that it takes, just consider how many people are involved in the service today. Lots of people. Now, I know that for most of us, it's a labor of love, but a labor of love is still a labor. So we have to do a lot of work until we can come to agreement on the important things about our church and about our denomination. And yes, at least from the outside, some of this work is as common as mud. But if we do it conscientiously, it not only creates the best community, but it also builds souls. The poem to illustrate our sixth principle, that we affirm the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, is Wild Peace by Yehuda Amichai. Not the peace of a ceasefire, not even the vision of the wolf and the lamb, but rather as in the heart when the excitement is over and you can only talk about a great weariness. I know that I know how to kill. That makes me an adult. And my son plays with a toy gun that knows how to open and close its eyes and say, Mama. A peace without the big noise of beating swords into plowshares, without words, without the thud of the heavy rubber stamp. Let it be light, floating like lazy white foam. A little rest for the wounds, but who speaks of healing? And the howl of the orphans is passed from one generation to the next, as in a relay race, the baton never falls. Let it come like wildflowers, suddenly, because the field must have it, wild peace. Yehuda Amichai is an Israeli poet, veteran of 2 major wars and a lifetime of living in the world's most dangerous neighborhood. His voice shows the painful knowledge and exhaustion of one who has seen the worst. Think of those lines. I know that I know how to kill. That makes me an adult. He lives with the fact that even children's games are poisoned by war. My son plays with a toy gun that knows how to open and close its eyes and say, Mama. He won't accept the high-flown empty words of diplomats or prophets or the stodgy bureaucratic treaties. But hope survives. For him, peace must be a living thing and irresistible. Let it come like wildflowers, suddenly, because the field must have it. Wild peace. Our 7th principle is that we affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. In other words, we're all in the same boat. What boat is that? Of course, it's our blue boat home. I invite you to sing it together. Please stand as willing or able.
Never
Just one quick announcement. Current Events is meeting after service today. Okay. Please join me in saying the words for lighting extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Before the closing words, my heartfelt thanks to so many people who contributed to this service. To Krista for just keeping things on track. To our readers, Jean Ferlin, Joe Shaughnessy, and Sue McCarthy, thank you for providing different voices to give a spell from my own. Musicians, wow. First of all, thanks to Mary Pratt, who even from a distance provided much leadership and guidance to us all, or to me, I should say, and especially to Doug Reichenfeld and Rennie Monteverdi. It was wonderful to hear you. I've always thought that Lift Every Voice and Sing deserves a trumpet. But in addition to that, the third of a choir who materialized, thank goodness, to lead us in the hymn, or lead us in the round. You don't want me leading you in a round, believe me. When it became clear that Mary was unable to come. So thank you all so much for your role too. And the technical folks, Joe Shaughnessy and Phil Cassidy, who work to keep everything on the air and keep us digitally alert and on our toes. Our closing words are from John F. Kennedy. When power leads man to arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the area of man's concern, poetry leads him to the richness and diversity of existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. Go in peace. Thank you so much.